video contains an ad for Squarespace. Tjena, it's me, Martina. So in the past I've made quite a lot of like miniature landscapes, but the problem with them is that they're really cool, but they're kind of hard to store and showcase. And so I thought about so many different ways to try to solve this, and I was like, okay, what if I can hang it on my wall? I mean, I think that could be really cool, and it would just make miniature landscapes so much more accessible and easy to showcase. But there are some problems. I mean, making something like a world immersive and cool inside a little confined space like this is probably gonna be a lot more challenging than just making like a regular diorama thing. How the heck am I supposed to put a whole landscape in here? I want to try to make this like an elven-inspired outpost with some buildings and a waterfall just falling down in layers and maybe even out of the frame. I think that would be a really cool feature if we can pull it off. But we gotta start somewhere, so I'm gonna use some of this XPS foam to create like a rocky cliff base that I'm gonna place all my buildings on top of. So this is basically gonna make the foundation for everything that is going in the diorama. And then we'll see where we go from there. I hate this. So in short, what I've done now is just take the XPS foam, cut it with a box knife, made some cool like rock textures on the surface here, and then I've covered it with some foam coat that has a really nice rock texture and some plaster to kind of reinforce this foam. And now, as you can see on the back here, I've left basically a huge gap down here, and that is because I'm gonna put, well, a bunch of LEDs in here, and I need some space for the wires and stuff. Let me find my wires and my electronic steps, and we can get to work. Painting is done, and it's looking pretty good so far. I mean, still a little naked, but we're gonna fix that now because we're gonna work on those waterfalls that is going to run down here. I've seen multiple ways of making miniature waterfalls, like hot glue or Mod Podge, but I want to try to make them out of epoxy resin. So I was thinking I could try to like make a waterfall out of polymer clay, if that's even possible, and then make a vacuum mold out of that and cast it in epoxy resin. I'm gonna try it with a piece that is going on the front and outside the frame first. If it works with that, that's cool. Then we can do it for the rest of them as well. Let's make some waterfalls. the results are in. It looks fantastic! Honestly, was a little bit skeptical because I tried to, you know, make this polymer clay thing, and when I made it, I was like, okay, this kind of looks like a tree. Because how do you make water texture? I don't know. Seeing it in this like clear blue form, I honestly think it looks kind of like water, and I kind of love it. How freaking cool is this? The way it kind of runs out of the frame. Confirmed, this works great. So I'm gonna do this method for the rest of the waterfalls. Yeah, let's move on. I really want to see how this turns out. Okay, let's mold it. Good morning! So the epoxy should be cured now. I left them overnight. And yeah, let's just pop them out and see how they will look on the landscape, shall we? Oh, and we got it right out. And they're even reusable, which is very nice. Nice. And now let's see how these look on the landscape. I think this looks so good. And I'm gonna have this in front here. And I'm probably gonna add some more paint on it later, but what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna glue these in place with some epoxy glue, and then I'm gonna mix up some more epoxy so we can pour the water that is going inside here and down here to kind of bind all of these waterfalls together. Got myself a coffee while the glue was curing. So damn good. By the way, like the cup, then check out the forged out store. Glue is cured. I put some overhead sheets, some transparent sheets in front here to keep the epoxy inside the frame. And I also added some sand down here and glued that in place. So now, let's pour the epoxy. Epoxy is now curing, nice. So I'm gonna move on to working on those buildings that is going in here. And one of my favorite materials to use for this kind of like miniature buildings is cardboard. Well, more specifically, the type of cardboard you find at the back of old sketchbooks, because this stuff is really dense and kind of durable for cardboard, and it's really easy to work with. And also, I have these lying around basically everywhere, so it's like free materials. I created these templates in Photoshop with the correct sizes and everything. And I also turned them into some SVG files, so it's possible to use a laser cutter. These will be available for our patrons, so I'll link to that down below. Also, you can absolutely cut this out using a box knife or an X-Acto knife, but since I have the opportunity to use a laser cutter, I'm gonna do that. Let's chop! I've had a lot of questions in the past asking what I cover the cardboard with before I start. I have hiccups. Why? Seriously, hiccups is one of my biggest pet peeves because it literally makes me mad. Like, okay, let's try this again. I've had a lot of questions asking. I swear to God. I've had a lot of questions asking me what I cover the cardboard with. Now I'm getting stressed from I'll be back. What I was trying to say was, what I cover the cardboard with before I paint it is some PV. So before painting it, oh my God, okay. Let's just try to explain what I was trying to explain very quickly before I can hiccup too much. Okay, so what I cover the cardboard with before I start painting is a layer of PVA glue, and the reason for that is because this cardboard often separates in layers, so it's to keep those layers together and also prevent the paint from just soaking into the cardboard. So it's twofold. I'll have to take a break. Done with the hiccuping, thank goodness. And we're also done with the painting, but there is one more detail I want to add to the buildings. Some gold leaf. I think gold leaf is just gonna add that little like elegant elf vibe we need. To apply it, I have some leaf primer. It's basically just an adhesive for the gold leaf. On top of the gold leaf, I'm gonna apply some coating varnish to protect it. And in the past, I've had a lot of comments from very angry people being like annoyed that I waste so much of the gold leaf. And just to be clear, it's not real gold, it's leaf metal. It costs nothing, basically. Leave me alone. I'm sorry, that pun was so bad. Okay, let me get my little friend here. The water is so clear. I've really been looking forward to this. Just peeling off these plastic things. Can I just do it with my hands? It's beautiful. There are two things missing now. It's lights and some vegetation. So I'm gonna make some plants out of clay, so let me get my clay. Again, I'm using polymer clay like I did with the rivers, but I have a really cool type of polymer clay I want to show you guys because it's basically magic. It's translucent white polymer clay, and it's really just the coolest thing ever because you can actually put LEDs inside it and cook it in the oven, and you have a little sculpture that glows. Like, it's amazing. I've soldered 3 LEDs together here to make the base for one of the plants with the wires inside and everything. Okay, there we go. We got all the plants and stuff we need with lights in them, so let's go cook them. Just got these plants out of the oven. That sounds very weird. Let's just move on to painting these plants and wire everything up. And now, before we put this thing together, here's an ad for Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build your online presence and run your business. Squarespace has the tools you need to get your business off the ground, including e-commerce templates, inventory management, a simple checkout process, and secure payments. Whatever you sell, Squarespace has merchandising features to make your products look their best online. And if you sell products in person, Squarespace automatically keeps your inventory and sales data in sync with your online store. Also, all websites made on Squarespace are optimized for mobile, which means that the content automatically adjusts so your site looks great on any device. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/nerdforge to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And back to the project. We're back, and we're done with all the boring stuff, which is, well, wiring up the LEDs, but everything is working now and is looking really good so far. And up until this point, we've really just used basic materials like cardboard, styrofoam and epoxy resin. But now we're gonna use some bit more specialized stuff like miniature plants. This is some ivy and we got some gamer's grass. And I know these are a bit more expensive, but there are alternatives, like you can use paint, or for example, IKEA has these plastic plants that you can basically just chop off and use in your dioramas. So let's get going. It's finished. And also I realized what I want to call this thing, because it's a diorama that you put inside a shelf, so that must make it a Shelforama. Yes, I'm very clever, thank you. So if you want to make your own Shelforama, make sure to use the hashtag Shelforama so that we can find it, because I would really love to see the awesome stuff you guys come up with. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to our wonderful patrons for supporting the channel and what we do. And now, let's have a look at the final result.